Hello students, standard 6th, chapter number 10 in physics, motion and the measurement of distances. The revision is going on, in which we learn about the different things, like in the beginning we saw that the modes of transport on the land, in water, in air. What was the modes of transport in the ancient times? Then after the invention of wheel, what changes came in? After the invention of steam engine, what was the difference? And then we learn about the very important inventions of the 20th century also. Then we saw that in the ancient time there were no measuring devices for the measurement of length. So they were using different body organs like length of a hand span, fingers, mutti, a yard, a foot, etc. But they saw that by using these different units, there was no uniformity, because the size of the organs of different people are different, and therefore every time you will get a different length for the same object. And then there was requirement of standard measurement, standard units. And then the French in the year 1790, they introduced a set of standard units in a metric system, and in that the units are universally accepted. The scientists from all over the world, they decided a general set of the measurements which are known as SI units. Now we learn about some SI units. Now we know that there are so many measuring devices now available, like a meter scale, a measuring tape, and so many other devices. We use the meter scale generally to find the straight length. But when you go to the tailor for measurement of your clothes, then he use a measuring tape, because that helps to find out your size of your chest, your shoulder, which are not the straight parts. Similarly, if you go to the clothes shop, they will using a meter rod, and so on. So according to the requirement, you use the particular device. Now, if you want to find the length of a line segment, how will you do it? To find the line segment, you need a meter scale. And then what we have to do, you have to put the 0 digit on one end of the line segment and put the meter scale along the line, and where the line ends, the line segment ends, we check the number there, and according to that you will write down the length of that line segment. Now that is the way you write down how to measure the length of a line segment. Now sometimes you see that in some of the meter scale, suppose your zero number is not readable or it is broken, then how will you measure the line segment, the length of the line segment or any device? If you are given a pencil or a book or a piece of paper or a cloth, but your zero number is broken, or it is not broken but it is not perfectly readable. In this situation, how will we find the length of the given object? In this situation, what we will do? We will see which whole number is perfectly readable, not broken. Suppose 1 is readable, or 2 or 3, whatever first available whole number on the meter scale, you have to start with that number. So at the end of the end of that object, put that whole number that you can read properly, and then check which number is at the end of that object, and then you have to subtract the first reading from the final reading. Suppose your final reading is 3.5, your initial reading was 1, then you have to subtract 1 from 3.5, means 3.5 centimeter minus 1 centimeter, so your correct length will be 2.5 centimeter. If you started from 2, then you have to subtract 2 from the final reading. So whenever the 0 or 1, 2, 3, whatever is broken, then also we can find the correct length by starting with the first readable whole number and subtract the initial measurement from the final measurement, and then that will give you the correct length of the object. Now state the precautions to observe while measuring length with the help of a meter scale. There are some precautions to be observed when we measure the length of object using the meter scale. Otherwise, sometimes the measurement will be not perfectly correct, but there will be some minor error. But in some of the situation you need the exact measurement. So these precautions are very, very necessary. First of all, that we have to place the scale in contact with the object whose length is to be measured. So if you want to measure the length of this book, the scale must be exactly in contact with this book, not you put it far from it. So it must be exactly in contact with the object. Second thing we already discussed, that if the 0 is broken, that is also precaution. If 0 is broken, then you have to start with the first available whole number and then you subtract the initial number from the final number. Third thing to observe is that correct position of the eye. When you read the final position, and then your eye must be exactly above that reading. It should not be to the left or to the right as shown in this figure. It should be exactly in the middle, exactly on the top of that reading. If you see from the left or from the right, then there will be some mistake of 1 or 2 centimeter can be there because of the reflection of the light and so on. So whenever you read the final reading, your eyes must be exactly above that scale so that you can read the perfect answer. So these are the precautions to be observed while measuring length with the help of a meter scale. Now, how can a measured length be expressed? Suppose you find the length. Now, any length can be expressed with two things. When you write down the measurement, it has two things. One is the number, and the other is the unit. You don't only write down 3.5, the length is 3.5, the length is 5.7, the length is 22. What is that? Not only the number, but there must be unit with it. We know the SI unit is meter, smaller units are centimeter, millimeter, bigger unit are kilometer also. So if there is a distance between the two cities, you have to write down 12, but with that kilometer, 15 kilometer, 7.9 kilometer. If it is small measurement, it is in centimeter. You need to write down. So the measurement will be in two parts. One part shows the digits, mean the numbers, and the second part with it, it must show the unit. Because along the length only in digit, given that the length of the triangle is 3. What is 3? It can be 3 meter, 3 centimeter, 3 kilometer. So we need to specify. So whenever the measured length is to express, it should be expressed in two parts. One, the number or the digits, and the second part is the unit of that measurement. It is required in all of the measurement. Like if you are find your weight, then weight should be also in the gram or kilogram, etc. And so on, temperature also, then it is number with the degree Celsius or degree Fahrenheit, etc. So whenever we find any measurement, it is written in two parts. One part with the numbers, other part the unit of that measurement. So these are the things to be noted. Second thing now, explain how to measure the length of a curved line. We already discussed about that also. Then if there is a curved line like this, not a straight line, then we cannot use the meter scale for it. Then what we have to do? We have to take a piece of thread, long piece of thread, and make a note on the one of the end, and put that note on one of the end of this curved line, and then move the thread along that line, curved line, up to the end of that line. Slowly put that thread on the line, go to the end, and that at the second end of the curved line, make a sign on that thread. And then what you do? Then you take the thread, and with the use of meter scale, starting from 0 or whatever we already talked, you can find the length, and then that give the length of the curved line. Similarly, if you have to find the girth of the tree trunk, then also you can't use a meter scale. So either you can use the measuring tape, or you can use a big thread and move it along with the tree, the trunk of the tree, and then by using that meter scale, you can find what is the girth or the width of the tree. Similarly, as I told you that if you want to find your waist or your shoulder, then also you cannot use the meter scale. You have to use the measuring tape. Now name the device used to measure the following. Here are some measurements to find. Then which device will you use? First, size of your shoulder. The shoulder side. So the tailor will use a measuring tape which is made of the cloth or some synthetic material, because it can be flexible and therefore it can take that curved measurement also, because our shoulder is not exactly straight but it is little curved, so we use measuring tape. Second thing, size of your waist here, because if you want to stitch your pants or if you want to buy your pants, jeans, etc., trousers, you need to know your waist, that what is your waist, and according to the size of your waist you will buy your trousers or your jeans, etc. So we need to know so for that also we use the measuring tape. Your height, if you want to find your height, you can use the meter scale by marking on the wall and then you stand there, or you can use the measuring tape also, that is available in the market, different types. Then your weight, if you want to measure your weight, what do you use? You will use the weighing balance. That weighing balance are available, you will stand on it and then that point on it will show your weight, so you will use the weighing scale for it. And then length of the cloth can be find out with the help of the meter scale also, or at the cloth merchant, they use that meter rods also. So anything available is that. Then girth of the tree, I already told you that you can use the big thread or you can use the measuring tape also. Now we come to the motion. We know that when the objects move from one place to another according to the time, then we can say that they are in motion, otherwise they are at rest. So there are two types of position are there, either at rest when they are not moving at all, keeping at the same place, then they are known as at rest. But if they are moving, then it is in motion. There are different type of motions are there. For example, when a bird is flying, what type of motion is that? It is a random motion. Why? Because they don't go on a particular path. But when the soldiers are doing that march past, they go straight in a straight line. So that is called a rectilinear motion. So a motion that is on the straight line, when the objects move along the straight line, it is called a rectilinear motion. So march past, or on the highway, if the highway is very straight and the car is moving on the straight line, that is also the example of the rectilinear motion. Then if you see the blades of the fan, on which path it is moving when you switch it on. When you switch on the fan, the blades will start moving on a circular path. So it is known as circulatory motion or spinning motion also. Then the other type of motion is the oscillatory motion. Oscillatory motion means from the mean position they move to and fro or back and forth. Then that type of motion is known as oscillatory motion. For example, a child on a swing, the motion of the pendulum, motion of the seesaw in the garden, etc. Similarly, when you see the birds are flying, their wings are also doing the oscillatory motion. Similarly, when a runner is running, you can see its hands. Hands are also in the oscillatory motion. So that are the examples of the oscillatory motion. Circulatory motion, I told you fan. Then you see, like in the old time, to draw the water from the well, some other devices are used like rate. That rate is also doing the circulatory motion. But if an ant is on the floor for taking the piece of food, then they are moving randomly. So that type of motion is known as a random motion. Now sometimes you see that some like musical organs, musical instruments, like guitar, sitar, they have string. When you plug the string, they start vibrates. So it is also known as a vibrating motion. It is same like the oscillatory motion, but that oscillations are very speedy and very small. So we can call them oscillatory motion, or we can say that they are vibrating. So vibrating motions, similarly on the tabla, when you play with the hand, then the tabla also start vibrating. Similarly, your school bell or bell in the temples, when you struck, then it is also start vibrating. So that is the vibrating motion also. Then some motions are periodic motions, means after the same time of interval they repeat the motion. Then that type of motion is known as periodic motion. For example, our heartbeats. Similarly way, the motion of the clocks, I mean the hands of the clock, they are always in the same time they are repeating. So that type of motions are the so we are having the different motions like periodic motion and rectilinear motion and the circulatory motion or the vibrating motion, etc. So whenever you see, we see that every time you are aware with the motions, different type of motions are going on. So that you can write down the different type of motions and the examples of each. So here we are going to finish the today's session and the revision of the chapter number 10 also. Here some question for the assignments are given, and so we will write down the answers of them. Thank you very much.